There is a lot going on in Clarkston right now. How would you even classify it? What is going on in Clarkston right now?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's a crisis and it's a combination of things, but I think the most important thing is the police force. We have 21 budgeted positions. Right now, as far from the last I've heard, we only have 11 officers that are actually in those positions. That means we only have 2 officers per shift when we're supposed to have 4 officers per shift. So of course, if one officer, has to take someone to the DeKalb jail or is called out for some other reason, then there's literally only one officer to respond to an emergency. And of course, sometimes police emergencies require more than one officer to respond to, and it's not safe for just one officer to respond alone. So it's a really serious situation for our city, for public safety. And I think, part of this is the ongoing dispute between the police chief and the city manager. And part of it is that, our compensation package is just not competitive with the other metro Atlanta jurisdictions. That, I think 52,000 is our starting salary right now, and DeKalb is at 55. And most other North Metro Atlanta areas that we're losing officers to are anywhere from 60 to 70. Because of that, I think Clarkston just hasn't been able to keep up the police force that it needs to. And, there's also the related issue with the email that we're still looking into some of those allegations that we got from the city finance director. But I can just tell you it's extremely unusual for a Clarkston employee to go past the city manager to contact the city council directly. That hasn't happened in the 6.5 years that I've been serving on the council. And especially for someone like Dan Defnall, who's a long time, respected employee, been the finance director of Clarkston for a long time, ever since I've been in office, to do something like that.
Yeah, there are several issues at play here. Going back to what you were talking about on the police force. I mean, because of how few officers are on the force right now and per shift, are you concerned for the safety of Clarkston residents right now?
Yeah, absolutely. I am concerned. I don't see how you could not be concerned that only 2 officers per shift. I mean, there very could easily be an emergency that requires more than 2 officers to be present, and they just wouldn't be there. And fortunately, so far, knock on wood, we haven't had that type of emergency while the officers, but at the same time, officers came and spoke at the Clarkston City Council meeting back in June, and they told stories about how they'd have physical fights, and it just had to be a one-on-one physical fight because they literally didn't have a backup that could come help them. And of course, that's dangerous because if you lose physical fight, there's no one there to help you. It's just you one-on-one. And so to me, that's incredibly concerning, both for our officer safety and for our resident safety, that we're down to 2 officers per shift. So that's why I've introduced an agenda item to increase officer compensation that hopefully the council will consider this evening and then vote on next week. That would hopefully allow us to, recruit more officers and retain the officers that we currently have.
You have a work session on that specifically tonight. I'm guessing you'll be joining virtually.
Yes, I'll be joining virtually.
And since you proposed it, obviously you would be for increasing police pay. Is that right?
And that's correct. Yes.
How much do you think it should go up?
So I think the problem is that at every step of this police crisis, I feel like the city has been behind the 8 ball. So the police chief has asked for budget increases in both 2021 and 2022 for pay increases. Those didn't happen. The officers got together in March and asked the city manager in an all hands on deck meeting for pay increases. And again, that's incredibly unusual to have an all hands on deck meeting with all the Clarkston police officers. That's again something that hasn't happened since I've been on the city council. So if back in March we had done a smaller increase or done a smaller increase any time in the previous 2 years, I think that might have been enough. But the problem is we didn't do it then. And then at the June council session, when I tried to add the item to increase the police pay agenda, it was voted down. And I think that was very symbolic to all the officers there, because a lot of officers actually came and spoke at that meeting and said, hey, we don't have enough officer supporters. So we need an increased pay in order to compete with these other jurisdictions. And the council didn't even consider the agenda item then that I tried to put on to increase officer pay. So because of that, we've lost so many officers, and so we're so far behind the 8 ball that I think we have to increase the pay more than we otherwise would. I think if we'd gone to like 52 or 55, last year or back in March, that might have been enough to head off the crisis. But at this point, the crisis has gotten beyond that. And I think we need to go to like 60 or 65 just to be able to compete with other jurisdictions, because we can't keep on going the way that we are.
Some people anticipate this meeting, some are calling it explosive. How do you think it's going to go? Do you think it's going to be contentious?
I think that there will be a lot of concerned residents there. I've heard from people, some people are saying they're going to wear red and orange shirts. Some people, I've heard from a lot of people they're going to be there either on Zoom or in person, because I think the residents, have a legitimate fear and concern about how the city's being run and about how their public safety is being handled. And so I anticipate quite a few residents being there to speak and to let the council know they're concerned, because I know a lot of people have been emailing the council just because I get these emails. And just from hearing from the residents, I feel like some of the council is responding to them, but not all the council is responding. So I don't know if all the council really grasps the urgency of this situation. And hopefully I'll be proven wrong and they will grasp it and, take necessary steps to fix it.